Okay. All right. So we're here today. I'm Daniel, and this is Shane. And Shane has gained a lot of notoriety because of some of the practices that he utilizes on his health journey. So I kind of wanted to talk to him about it and how he started his health journey, what made him become so interested in healing, and the different things that he's tried so far as on his journey in life. So you can go ahead and start.
Awesome. Okay, for anyone wondering, I'm only 25. I know that picture in my nutritional balancing group makes me look like a teenager. That's just what it is. It's gonna pay off when I'm 40, and we're gonna look nice and young. For right now, I'm kind of baby faced, but that's whatever. Um, so I was born 25 years ago to a relatively healthy mom, and really the only issues there were maybe emotional problems. Ran pretty wild on that side of the family, and my father's side, it's kind of the opposite, kind of more repressed. But that's neither here nor there. I was born relatively healthy. Um, and this whole me trying to piece together my healing journey, my memory of my early years is not so great. I think my health really started to dwindle around when I was 2 years old. I was playing at my grandmother's house. I got into a fire ant pile, and from what they told about it, I just was playing in that fire ant pile, and you could barely see my skin. There were so many ants on me. I was taken to the emergency room, and ever since then, that's pretty much I was just kind of pumped full of medications from the get-go. About 2 years old, and I was always running fevers pretty much every other month of my life. Tons of flus, tons of colds. My respiratory system started taking a huge hit. I was one of those kids where it's recess time at school, and nope, not recess time for me. I had to go to the nurse's office and get plugged into a nebulizer. And if anyone knows what a nebulizer is, it's where you take this, you pretty much dissolve medication in like a type of steamed water, and then you inhale it. So I had to take that for my asthma. I had extreme allergies and asthma. If it was springtime and I walked outside, you can bet I'm probably going to fill an entire towel, like a beach towel, with mucus. So things were getting pretty bad. That kind of remained stable all throughout my adolescence and my teenage years. Um, my diet was pretty mediocre, kind of standard American fare. Plenty of enchiladas, burgers, tacos,
Hmm.
pizzas. If I was going to eat vegetables, it's probably going to be canned vegetables. Um, that's about any milk I got was pasteurized milk from the supermarket. Just pretty much standard American fare. That was all the way up till I was about 19. Around 19, my health, I wasn't even concerned with health. I just kind of I was in the thought of, oh, genetics. So, I just, life played me a certain hand. I just got to deal with what I have. I didn't even really think of health. I didn't even know you could improve health to any, meaningful extent. Like, I knew if I eat better, I might feel a little bit better. But other than that, I didn't think there was much I could do about my any health problems. But, around 19, I started working as a delivery driver for Papa John's. So I pretty much started eating probably half a pizza to a full pizza per day.
Oh
Just to
yeah.
get. Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, if that. It was all free, so it was just laying there. I thought, this is wonderful.
Right.
So I started packing on the pounds real quick. I'd always been underweight because that medication I had to take for my asthma. It's funny if anybody knows bodybuilders, how they usually they mess around with many different compounds and drugs. They will pay big money for the money, or excuse me, they'll pay big money for the compounds that I got prescribed. It's called albuterol. It
Hmm.
pretty much sheds all weight off your body, especially fat weight. So I was a very underweight kid. I had very little muscle, but I could still pack on fat, and it was this really weird. You kind of get skinny fat. It was very horrible.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I was always underweight, and now that I'm eating, at least supplementing a full pizza per day in my diet, I
Yeah.
started packing on the weight fast.
Hmm.
I'm only 5'9", and I got up to about 180. Didn't have that much muscle on me, so I was a very pudgy lad. But
Hmm.
and of course, it's not just the weight. My health problems started getting worse. My skin got the worst it ever looked. Cystic acne on my, the back of my neck. just back in general, on the arms, under the jaw, all that nonsense. Cystic acne. My allergies got even worse. I didn't think they could get any worse, but they definitely did get worse. And then I got into a relationship with a woman who, I was early, I was a young guy, so, a bunch of learning, time for learning, but, that relationship was pretty draining on both of us, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So my health was going down pretty quick. Signs of aging were there. Of course, back then I had no idea about the the standard process of aging. I was just kind of a young guy just going through the motions. But I was aging pretty rapidly. And then, to be completely honest with you, my health journey kind of started off unlike most people. I would say, most people kind of start with, okay, I'm gonna eat a little bit better. I'm gonna exercise a little bit more. No more smoking, no more drinking, things like that. I was doing all of that, and I actually started experimenting with psychedelics. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Okay, so you're on the same page with me. Psychedelics are tremendous.
Well, I've
I
never
do.
taken any, but I
Oh,
know a lot of people who have.
yeah. I mean, some
Oh,
people.
did you do the what is it, the ayahuasca or anything like that, or
Uh, I was more.
PCP, or
Okay,
I mean,
I didn't know about that at first, but I just kind of started off like people. People that think marijuana is just recreational. I tend to disagree heavily. A lot of people do it recreationally, but the first time I tried it, it actually did wonders for me. I respected it immediately. I kind of saw it as this sacred tool. I did it the first time, and I had no desire to rush and go do it again. I was like, holy crap. It gave me a lot of insight, and it kind of puts you in that some sort of altered consciousness.
mm-hmm.
Even alcohol can do it. I'm not saying go take alcohol, of course, but even alcohol can do it. It can put you in just a tiny, alter your consciousness enough to where you can kind of see things in a different light. And it really opened me up. I'd never really questioned anything about life
Mm-hmm.
up until that point. I was just kind of going with emotions. So this kind of it's kind of crowbarred my mind open a little bit, if that's the analogy you want to use, whether I liked it or not. There was no running from the things that I realized while messing with psychedelics. It started off very mild. Maybe using marijuana once every other week, something like that. Like I really didn't respect it. I did not abuse it whatsoever. And then, I was a young man and I started messing around with basically the acid and or not recreational, research chemicals, which I do not recommend anyone do. I'm just telling you what I did.
Okay.
But yeah, that tremendously opened my mind up. So it didn't fix any of my problems. It just helped me realize that the problems were there. Let me put it that way. So it really opened my eyes. I'm like, oh wow, I kind of got to get my crap together. It kind of started that process, and I realized, just taking mind-altering substances is not going to fix the problems. So from there, that is when I started kind of realizing, okay, diet's going to help me. Diet's going to improve the body. Oh, and then you started piecing together, oh, the body is the mind, and then okay, so what I eat directly impacts my spiritual health. What I think, how I feel. So as soon as I made that connection, that's when my healing kind of took off. And that's when I started messing around with lots of diets. I tried being vegan for a couple months. Just limiting meat, and I tried eating nothing but meat. Just going to all extremes because I really wanted to know what food.
That put a tax on the digestive system.
That's what you would read. You see, I would read that, but it's just not enough because you would go on the internet and anything you type in on the internet, you're going to find things for it, things against it, and everything in between. So I had no choice but to do it. I'll tell you what, I noticed tremendous results. So that's when I realized, okay, meat is important. I'm not going to eat nothing but meat for the rest of my life, but I know meat is very important.
Yeah.
So
You heard of the Weston A. Price diet?
I love Weston A. Price.
Big on meat, and I was utilizing his protocol before nutritional balancing.
I was doing something similar, kind of ketogenic related, something like that. So yeah, no, I love Weston Price. We're on the same page there. But yeah, he traveled the world, and he just realized that, hey, meat, milk, and eggs are at least like 70 to 80% of these people's diets, and they tended to use vegetables more as medication or garnishes on dishes, or maybe if back in the day, we didn't have refrigeration or food preservation practices like today. They might dig up a tuber, they might eat some, ferment some grains, or they might, process some vegetation. Most of these people's diets were definitely animal foods, most places of the world. So I knew meat was important. And then, to cut this long story short, as I kept delving into, okay, food is very important, and then starting to mix that, with spiritual understandings, started heading into the more spiritual realm and, digesting those topics. That's when I came across Dr. Wilson. And basically anyone, you got to be, I don't want to use the word desperate, but you have to be on a real seeking path to come across Dr. Wilson's work and say, yeah, definitely. And then just to keep clicking article after article, you got to be really wanting some truth.
Yeah.
So yeah, you start reading about the yin and the yang and the ancient Chinese, principles, and you start reading about, what he thinks you should be eating versus what everyone else is eating. And, it sparked my curiosity just as everything else did. So it's like, I have to try what this guy's saying. But of course, nutritional balancing, it's not just a diet, it's a lifestyle. So I took it slowly, as most probably would. I got to take a sip of milk here.
Oh yeah, get your milk.
Yes.
Let me get my ginger tea. Keep going.
But yeah, so I knew it wasn't just a diet, it was a lifestyle. So I decided to start small. I went to my I heard about the wonders of kelp, wonders of TMG. So I went to, that's how I got started. I didn't change anything in my diet other than eating more steamed broccoli right off the beginning. And I went to the GNC to pick up some kelp and TMG, and I tell you what, I took the full dose. I took 6 or 7 kelp capsules and 3 grams of TMG, and I woke up the next day and I felt like I hadn't felt ever since a kid.
Wow.
That was tremendous to me. I didn't know if that exactly was the kelp or TMG, or if there was some placebo and me getting super excited for this protocol I'm going to try. I don't know what it was. I just woke up, and years of just completely unexplainable depression and anxiety was seemingly gone for at least half or a full day. And it was so mind-blowing to me that I actually started journaling because of that. I was so mind-blown at the feelings and thoughts I was experiencing. I was like, I got to write this down. This is crazy. I'd always been against journaling before. I always thought, I'm never going to be interested in this. But shoot, man, I started journaling that day. And I've been journaling ever since.
Wow.
But, and then a few days later, it kind of wore off. And I was like, okay, yeah, it was too good to be true. But then I started doing more of the stuff. I thought, what, let's nut up. Let's go get the enema set. So,
yeah,
I had no problem.
That's the biggest step for any males on the program.
Yeah,
it took me 2 years to start doing the enemas. I did everything else, but it took me 2 years to start doing the enemas. I'm like, nah, I'm not doing it.
That's funny. No, I had no problems, man. Like I told you, I have to try everything. Yeah. And I have this weird thing where call it like tinfoil hat mode, but I have this weird thing that if the government or any health official or health institute talks bad about something, I have to go try it.
Oh yeah.
I have to go try it. And I'm sure people that are listening know, if you are doing coffee enemas, you've probably researched coffee enemas quite extensively to be able to justify doing that whole process.
Yeah.
But it actually used to be in the Merck manual. And for anyone that doesn't know what the Merck manual is, it's like the medical profession's like holy grail. It's their holy Bible basically. And it used to be, the coffee enemas used to be in there, and it actually got removed in the 70s for whatever reason. And that sounds a little sketchy to me. Max Gerson. Max Gerson, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was one of his, his pillars of the therapy. Very effective. So me just putting all these pieces together, I knew the coffee enemas were definitely something that I was probably going to be doing for a long time. And it's true. Like, coffee enemas are fantastic. So I'm glad I got started early. I know a lot of people, like you say, they wait to do them. But, the second I started doing them, it was just remarkable. Very remarkable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then it took me a little longer. As soon as I realized the coffee enemas are pretty cool, pretty chill, I was like, okay, let's buy that infrared lamp and just melt myself every day, twice a day. I was like, let's do it. And that was tremendous as well.
So now, what is your basic average diet now that you?
Okay, I'm glad you asked. So I'm torn, man.
You're torn in between. Your heart is telling you something.
Yes.
Your
No,
mind.
that is exactly it. I'm so torn because I cannot deny that nutritional balancing served me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I basically, okay, so for my history of the nutritional balancing, I started roughly about 2.5 years ago with the free program. I
Mm-hmm.
did it pretty spot on. I just assumed that I was a slow oxidizer because I had every single slow oxidizer symptom. I was tired, fatigued, lethargic, cold, etc., etc. I had no gusto. I was never really anxious and irritable and like get up and do something. It was like anxious to the point where I just wanted to lay down all the time. So I
Yeah.
assumed I was slow oxidizer. So I did the free program and just took Megapan alongside that, about one a day. And it pretty much worked as I thought it would. Like, I went through the motions. I would eat all the vegetables, take the supplements, be feeling pretty good. The next day, oh, something's coming up. I got a stomach ache, or I'm really tired, or anxiety out of nowhere. So I assumed that was proper retracing, and then oh, struggling with the day of that. Then the next day, back to normal, feeling good as new. Time to do the program even harder. So that
Mm.
I'm sure a bunch of people know that pattern I'm talking about. I think I talked to Bonnie. Bonnie, if you're listening, we talked about that. But yeah, and I did that for a while, and then sorry, I'm trying to put a long story short again. I broke my leg about 6 months into doing the free program. I'm not going to talk about how I broke it because it saddens me. I don't want anyone to laugh at me. It involved 4 steps. Four
Oh.
steps. I guess I will tell you. I jumped down 4 or 5 steps, and I don't know if I landed just in the most improper way or if my bones were very weak. I have no idea. But I snapped my tibia and fibula just completely. So,
Ooh, ouch.
yes. So basically, right then, that was the end of my free program for nutritional balancing because I couldn't get up and cook my vegetables or do saunas or do coffee enemas. All I could really do is lay there and do the pushing down exercise. So I broke myself, and pretty much I didn't do nutritional balancing for many months after that. All my body had an appetite for, and I don't know if this was trusting my intuition or if it was some sort of food addiction. I have no clue, but my body absolutely repulsed vegetables, butter, salt, meat, anything. All my body wanted was fruit and nut butter.
All
So
right.
good thing I had a ton of almond butter that I bulk ordered because of the program. So I had like 12 pounds of almond butter to sit there and put next to my couch while I recovered. Just was eating that just like mad, and eat a bunch of kiwis and berries every day. That's all my body wanted. I have no clue why, but that nursed me back to health. I healed more rapid than the doctor had ever seen. I was walking in 2 months when they said try walking in about 6 months. So I was pretty blown away with that. I don't know if the health I had built with nutritional balancing right before I broke myself helped me carry through with that. I'm sure it did to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so and then as soon as I started being able to walk again, I went back to work, started doing the free program again, and the exact same stuff happened. I was getting that retracing cycle. Uh, everything was going good. Now, for anyone listening that has been paying attention to the, not I'm not going to say mainstream health sphere, but definitely like the for example, Daniel, have you heard about the carnivore diet and people, reducing their vegetable consumption and they're getting these
Yeah.
benefits, especially the people with like immunological problems, like especially gut problems. They're taking out all vegetables. And I don't necessarily agree that's the best way to do things, how they're doing it. They're just eating ribeyes, bacon, sometimes butter, and salt.
Oh, wow.
So they're doing like an extreme elimination diet. There's tons of people eating nothing but ribeyes. You talk to these people and you suggest eggs, and they're like, no, this is perfect. They're feeling fantastic on nothing but ribeyes. So obviously that's short term, but then you can't ignore the people that are getting tremendous long term benefits of doing that. There's so many people in that carnivore community that have been doing this for decades. with no problem, no seeming deficiencies, no scurvy, no problems like that whatsoever.
Hmm.
Like the Grateful Dead, right? The band The Grateful Dead.
Yes.
Their sound guy, his name was the Bear.
Hmm.
He's an old guy now. I think he's in his 70s. But for about 40 to 50 years, while he was on tour with the Grateful Dead, he wrote essays and he documented his experiments eating nothing pretty much but steak, eggs, and butter, and maybe a little bit of cream. And he was a pretty hardy guy. He had a great mind, great sharp mind, still writing essays into his 70s.
Hmm.
I don't know. I just think that's remarkable because it goes against everything we've been told. And like I said, the people that tell us what to eat, I don't exactly trust them for obvious reasons. You gotta experiment. You gotta figure out.
Well, great now. Um, the Grateful Dead guy and a lot of the rock bands and musicians, they seem to have a higher level of spiritual awareness and
Do.
spiritual um, that you have as well. So, well, okay, let's segue into this. And we'll
Well,
come back.
I know where you're going with that. Like this whole thing of meat is anti-spirituality. Is that where you're going with that?
No, I
Uh,
don't think I don't think that is. Of course not, because we eat meat, you know.
yeah,
And I actually eat more red meat than recommended.
yeah.
I,
Like
I would
4 times per
but I
week.
eat more lamb. I eat more
Yeah,
lamb to steak, but I eat it a lot, and it's
yeah.
great. It's I feel good with it, but I eat a lot of vegetables and stuff too. But
Absolutely.
so I was gonna say, it seems. Do you think there are certain differences between certain groups of people that they are able to handle these diets, or these certain diets benefit them as when it would not benefit another group of people? Because I see people like yourself and like some of these rock musicians and some other people who are can be considered Caucasian, but there's within the Caucasians they have different groups.
Absolutely.
Some of them do very well not eating much meat, and then you have some that do very well eating all meat.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that there's some who have this ability to journey into different dimensions and spiritual worlds. So when did you first
Mm.
start being able to journey into different dimensions or astral project and all that type of stuff? And
Ooh, I'm glad
was
that astral projection. I have a few interesting stories on that.
right. So now,
Um,
when you were doing that, were you on a specific diet, or was it just something innate, natural within you as a person that
okay.
was?
All right. So you kind of asked a lot there, but
Yeah.
one thing about the Caucasian thing you're talking about. So there definitely seems to be something to people's their heritages and their ancestry dictating what they work best off of. Like if you took an Eskimo and threw him down in the tropics, he's probably not going to do the best on coconuts and raw fish. Or well, no, they do eat tons of raw fish, but he's probably not going to do best in that climate and
Mm-hmm.
what food that climate has to offer. There is because his genetics have been built for that. Genetics can build pretty quick. Epigenetics is this. You know about epigenetics, right?
Mm-hmm.
For anyone listening, this is brand new. It's probably an exciting field of genetics that we've yet to really research in. But genetics can change quick, especially in laboratory experiments. There's I don't want to get too off topic there. I was about to go into a whole nother segue. I want to answer the question you had. So, was it something like, does the food we eat dictate our spiritual ability or our spiritual reach? Is that kind of what you're saying, or how
Well,
drastic does?
for you, was it? Did you start having these spiritual abilities after you started certain diets, or do you think it was already in you and you just awakened it from doing the push down or whatever other practice you were doing?
Okay, that's a good question. So, kind of like I said, when I started messing around with psychedelics,
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that there was a tremendous, how to put this, there was a tremendous world of things that I had no clue about. It just kind of, like I said, it kind of crowbarred my mind open to it, whether I wanted to see it. Um, so I feel like when I started messing around with psychedelics, I was eating just complete garbage. That's when I was eating a full pizza per day, and McDonald's after work and a 60-ounce Dr. Pepper there, 60-ounce Coke there. And I would go take psychedelics and have these tremendous shamanic like visions
Mm.
that were just tremendous. And I made no, because at that time I was not interested in health. I made no connection that, oh, this cheeseburger I'm eating probably isn't helping my mental abilities. I made no connection like that. But basically, looking back from where I am today, I feel like psychic ability is just kind of inherent to humans in general. I think it's inherent to any type of life form. Like obviously humans are pretty special, but I'm not going to say we're the only ones that have psychic ability or emotional, like extreme emotional empathy or anything like that. But what I have noticed is what I'm eating definitely does factor in how powerful that I can have those spiritual experiences. If I'm eating good and I'm eating clean, it's just obviously more clear, perhaps, if you want to put it that simply and bluntly. It's more clear. Now, when I did, so like I didn't talk about this earlier. I didn't answer the question properly. So like I said, my heart's torn between doing nutritional balancing because of everything it did for me. But then I get a whole different subset of benefits when I do nothing but eat raw meat, raw eggs, and raw milk on a daily basis. I get different benefits. So when I'm doing,
That is awesome. So hold up.
Yeah.
Raw meat.
Yes, sir.
All right.
If you guys want,
now, when you eat raw eggs, do you put it in the cup and drink it, or how you do it?
Just Rocky style.
So do you work out?
I haven't worked out in probably over a year consistently, and I maintain good muscle mass throughout the year just from eating this way. So basically,
I'm just wondering if you want to transfer that into some little bodybuilding or anything.
I tried for a little. I'm kind of torn there too because I have, for example, when I do nutritional balancing, that is not a time to do bodybuilding or any type of athletic endeavor. You're in like a detox healing mode. You need to be kind of more couch bound. You need to be chilling. You're not going to stack on a bunch of muscle eating, like you're Mr. Rutabaga, man. You're just not going to put on muscle rutabaga.
I don't know. That's a rutabaga right there.
No, you hold good lean mass. That's good. But what I'm saying is like on nutritional balancing, I take it chill. And then when I want to be more active, I need to go do something. I might, for a month or two, I just eat the meat, milk, and eggs. And it's tremendously nourishing. You're not, I don't get when people say you're deficient on that diet because when you get into it, it has far more of every nutrient than any plant-based diet. I'm not saying that to kind of diss nutritional balancing, but vegetables pale in comparison even in mineral content. So if you analyze the mineral content of meat, milk, and eggs, it's tremendously higher. Now, for example, you're not going to find a bunch of manganese in meat. Pretty much meat, milk, and eggs don't have much manganese at all. But when you go and analyze the animal tissues, for example, if we're going to go eat a cow, if none of its tissues have that much manganese, is it that important? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, that's neither here nor there, but basically I do not feel malnourished whatsoever eating that way. Digestion. So something you mentioned earlier, eating nothing but meat and eggs and stuff. You say it's tremendously hard on the digestion. If you eat them cooked, it definitely does not sit right, especially if your entire diet is that. You'll get people that'll be constipated. That's where the whole raw thing comes in. So my perfect analogy is people, there's a whole stigma with eggs. I ate 4 to 6 eggs, maybe they ate an omelet or something, and they get gas. Like they'll get like sulfury gas or something, or indigestion. It's kind of like a common, stigma around eggs. I've eaten 30 eggs in a 24-hour period, raw, and I didn't have one fart. Not a burp, not a fart, no bloating. I just felt like I wanted to go lift weights. I felt very energetic. Zero digestive problems.
Use that, man. Go cut down some trees.
Sure.
Get you an axe.
If I had trees to cut down, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to go jackhammer something. I want to I had tremendous amount of physical energy that needed an outlet. But I mean, like I'm a nerd, so I'll take all my energy and I'll put it on the internet and I'll go research a bunch of things. That's how I spend my energy.
Yeah, I noticed that. Very intelligent person.
Yeah, I think
But
Joe, he called me just a walking, talking encyclopedia, which I never thought about it. But that is totally right. I just spew out facts that I think's right all the time. So,
well, I'm very interested. I'm very interested to see your next hair analysis from doing this diet that you're doing now.
see, that's interesting. Yeah, I want to be transparent with you, and
Yeah, that'd
I'm
be
not
great.
trying. Yeah, that first hair test that I ever got back in November when I first contacted you, that was after tons. That was probably 2 months of raw meat and milk, and as you can saw, I was in fast oxidation, pretty hard. Like my sodium, potassium were like off the chart, very far.
Mhm.
I don't know what to attribute that to. All I can attribute that to is during the retracing process, you tend to, especially when you're retracing any type of emotional woes or traumas or anything of that nature, you'll tend to kind of, everyone that I'm talking to, we can kind of relate. You just kind of feel anxious out of nowhere, or you feel
Mhm.
depressed out of nowhere, you feel grief, you feel nothing for no apparent cause. You'll just wake up and you feel it, right? It's kind of retracing.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that I was being pushed into fast oxidation all the time from eating, if we're going with the yin and yang, philosophy there, I'm just eating the most yang foods you can in massive quantities day in, day out. I don't know if that pushed me into fast oxidation because before I did that, I felt completely slow. I can only speculate because I didn't have a test, but I felt so slow and sluggish in comparison. So
Mhm.
I don't know if this diet forces like a permanent fast oxidation or something like that because both my past hair tests have
Well,
been.
Dr. Eck, he also ate a lot of the raw meat and stuff like that as well.
I had no clue.
Yeah, yeah. See,
Wow.
but unfortunately, he stayed in fast oxidation also. And from what I
Okay,
understand,
that
that was one of the reasons why he passed away early. I think he's about 70 years old. So
was
I
that
mean, he had improved his health through nutritional balancing, but it wasn't at that time. It wasn't on the level as it is now. There's been a lot of improvements made, but he stayed in fast oxidation for, I guess, probably too long. And I'm not sure if he had a heart
that's it.
attack, what it was, but um,
Yeah.
usually people, from what Dr. Wilson told me, people have that are in fast oxidation for years, year in and year out. When they start to get older, they run the risk of having a heart attack, fast
Yeah.
oxidation attack.
Yeah. It's just stress, like alarm stage of stress, just on and on and on and on. But
Yeah.
that brings me perfectly to something you said earlier, like how do I feel eating this way versus eating another way, and like how it impacts the spirit. I can definitely, for anyone listening, I can definitely tell you that eating all the vegetables and eating kind of more moderate animal protein, definitely kept me a lot more calm, almost sedated, if you will. I was very calm and relaxed most of the time. On this, I have tons of energy. It's not like a stimulated energy, but it definitely feels like I can get a poor night's sleep for whatever reason and wake up and still be kicking just fine. Like, I don't
Mhm.
know what it is. I don't know if that's, forcing the adrenals too hard. It doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like, adrenaline pumping out in a bad way because I know what that feels like. I used to struggle with panic attacks, so this feels nothing like that. But I don't know. That's why I said I'm torn between the two, and I keep switching back because I get unique benefits from both.
Mhm.
So I just kind of cycle
Well,
it.
you on your second hair analysis, I remember you had detoxed. I can't remember what it was. It might have been manganese. I'm not sure. It was
Mercury and nickel and aluminum.
what was it? Nickel, aluminum, and what? You said nickel, aluminum. Uh-oh, froze up. Um, oh, he's frozen right there. I want to push stop recording because I don't want to mess the video up.
Yeah, you're frozen on my screen. Okay, you're good.
Oh, all right, there we go.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. So nickel, aluminum, and what was the other one you said?
And so aluminum was the highest, then nickel, then mercury, I believe.
Okay. So
But,
you're basically the amigos, all the amigo
yeah,
minerals. You you see all, it's like now it's like 4 or 5 amigos. So you were detoxing, you were removing those during your second test. So that's when you're actually doing the nutritional balancing program. You had switched over from the raw meat and eggs to doing the nutritional balancing during that period.
pretty much. I usually cycle the two, so I'll go
Yep.
really ham on eating tons of vegetables, just shoveling in that roughage, and then eating lots of sardines, and going more moderate on the meat. And I'll even cook the meat a little bit just so I can salt it, and it's with the sits well with the vegetables. I've tried eating raw meat and vegetables. It actually is a terrible combination
Mm.
because basically to digest meat you have to have an extremely acid digestive environment, and then to digest vegetables you pretty much don't even use hydrochloric acid at all. You pretty much just it goes straight into the small intestine, and then the bile works on it, and then the bacteria work on it. So I tried eating the two together, and I got terrible indigestion. So I
Okay.
don't recommend anybody try that. Keep them separate. But yeah, that second hair test, that was most of that was nutritional balancing, and then right before I got the hair test, probably a month of it was just the second half of the things I do.
Nope.
So I mean, I guess it does. I guess it's not extremely detrimental. It's still doing something. Maybe
Okay.
it's not the most optimal, but and then again, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this. I feel like everything we detox, it does mimic in the hair analysis, but at the same time, it has so many other, we'll use, heavy metals, of course, we're talking about right now. They detox so many pathways. Is the hair as an excretory tissue actually like such a viable marker? I know it is a viable marker, but you detox so many other ways. Is it that reliable? Does that make sense what I'm asking? Because
Yeah. Well,
sorry, go
there
ahead.
are ways of doing testing, and there's fingernail tests, there's skin tests, and all that other type of stuff. But the hair analysis is the only thing that we mere mortals use because the people the individuals that Dr. Wilson works with, they actually utilize, or the guide, as you could say, they
Yeah.
utilize more other tests as opposed to just hair analysis. They can look at your fingernails, beam whatever little rays they do for your fingernails or your skin or whatever, and they can do all types of analysis using
Like,
other. But we don't have that technology. Us mere mortals at this point in time don't have that technology to utilize, so we're kind of just doing the best that we can.
yeah. See, one of my whole reasons I went on this whole raw meat, milk, and eggs thing. If anybody listening have you heard of a man named Ogenus Vonderplanitz?
I've probably read
It,
his name before, but never heard it spoken, so I'm not sure.
yeah. So he's my go-to guy on this. Just pretty much, just as Dr. Wilson is for nutritional balancing, that guy is for basically all the raw meat and milk stuff. He backs it up with all the science. He runs his own laboratory tests, and he before he died 6 years ago, he was assassinated, unfortunately. That's just what that was, and that sparked my interest. But before he died, he was traveling the world, holding a bunch of workshops. So that man, I look at what that man can do with what he was doing in his lifestyle and his dietary choices, and it appealed to me. Because that was a guy in his 60s. I mean, he's just traveling nation to nation to nation to country, holding these workshops and doing all this incredible work. So, his what he had to say about diet definitely appealed to me. But one of the things he really pushed for was, so for example, this whole concept of detox is very important to a lot of people, but especially to us in the nutritional balancing field. Detox is huge, and there's a lot of ways the body does detox things. A lot of it is glutathione conjugation. It'll straight up just bind the toxin and make it more water soluble so it can be easier and less damaging to excrete. You might urinate it out, you might sweat it out, you might let it go in the bile or something like that. But then there's the concept of straight up, our white blood cells pretty much remove any foreign substrate or any foreign matter that is not supposed to be in the body, whether it's a chemical, whether it's a good mineral, whether it's a bad toxic metal, whether it be some sort of small microbe that doesn't need to be in that certain part of the body or tissue. So our white blood cells really are the biggest part of our immune system. Like our thymus gland is, it's part of the lymphatic system. It's really just a huge chunk of fat. Like I ordered a thymus gland from the Amish in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. For anyone that wants tremendous quality animal food, by the way, I heartily recommend you go order your food from the Amish people. They have the best quality meats I've ever found, and they will ship it anywhere in America, even Alaska, even Hawaii. But I ordered a thymus gland, and that thing's just pure fat. It was like almost like fat in consistency. So fat pretty much is our immune system.
So what kind of thymus gland was it? Cow or what?
It was a cow. Yeah.
Okay.
It was pretty big. It was like the size of a. I don't know for anyone that wants to reference this size, but it was pretty big.
So is that considered like an organ meat for the diet?
Well, I think they call it more glandular tissue. So they sold it to me with an adrenal gland and a thyroid gland, so I ate all of those raw.
Oh yeah.
It does not taste bad. It does not taste bad. The adrenal gland's like a little miniature kidney. It tastes like iron. It's very dense in iron.
Wow, so you ate it raw.
Just ate it raw. Just took it out.
Did it feel fatty? Like you said, looks like.
All of those things are covered in fat. The thyroid is covered in fat. The thymus pretty much is fat, and then the adrenal gland is a little tiny kidney-looking thing, just covered in fat.
So all of those.
Say it again?
Were those all from a cow? Or
yeah, I think it was the same cow.
Okay.
All the same cow. And I bought it, yeah. So, but basically the point I'm trying to get at here is most of what we call an immune system, our lymphatic system for detoxification, works mostly with fat. And you'll notice this when people, if you go into any fasting studies, like intermittent fasting or anything like that, they'll notice that within about 3 days, the white blood cell count of the entire body is tremendously down. And that's because pretty much you haven't eaten any fat in 3 days of any kind. And as soon as you refeed, your white blood cell count just skyrockets, goes through the roof even higher than before. So to me, the white blood cells are pretty much just fatty cells. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they're just lipid-based cells. So fat's very important. And on nutritional balancing, I don't feel like I get enough fat via his recommendations. Just how you say, you feel like you need some more red meat. Mm-hmm. My body craves just fat and fat and fat and fat. I can't get enough. Ever since I was little, I was the kid that, if my parents are cutting the fat off their steak, I'd reach over and grab it, eat the gristle.
Oh, yeah.
Ever since I was little. So I love fat. And this, when I'm not doing nutritional balancing, this is the way I get it in. So.
Okay. That's interesting. And you got to make a video you eating all this raw meat and is it like blood dripping everywhere and all that stuff?
That's happened. That's for sure happened. If anybody in the group wants to see it, I'll post pictures of my daily meals because I take pictures of all my meals.
Okay.
And it's so unappetizing looking. It's just like I'll set ground beef on a plate and put like 3 ounces of butter straight off the block next to it, and there I go.
Yeah. Wow.
There I go.
So now that
it digests tremendously well, by the way. I've eaten 2 pounds of ground beef in one sitting, and it didn't even feel like anything was in my stomach. If I were to eat that much cooked meat, I would have to go take a nap, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
So it's very, very different.
Okay. So do you still, without taking the psychedelics, do you still have the ability to do astral projection and different spiritual things? Okay.
That's a good question.
So to me, it means that you have that innate ability within you because it gets stimulated by.
So right now, I definitely don't want to do this, but I could go eat a full pizza, I'm imagining, and still have this like a psychic ability. Does that make sense? That's a really weird thing to say, but I could get poor sleep and I could eat something that's not right for me and I could be stressed out and I can still have this spiritual nature that I can connect with. I've never really separated from it. So I only really ever paid attention to it with the psychedelic use. I haven't used psychedelics in quite some time. To
Mm-hmm.
be honest, I might smoke marijuana once every 6 months. And
Mm-hmm.
the amount that I do is such a small amount. Like imagine taking a bite of a sandwich and little crumbs fall onto your plate. That's the amount I'm talking. Like
Mm-hmm.
just the tiniest little amount. So it's nothing significant at all.
Hmm.
But
So do
no,
you?
when I astral projected for the first time successfully, like trying to do it, it wasn't an accident. I was 2 months into the free nutritional balancing program, so maybe that did spark the ease of it. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it would have happened regardless because I only ever tried after starting nutritional balancing. I don't know what would have happened if I would have tried earlier. But, it
Okay.
was it was drastically easy. It was actually kind of startling.
So
I thought I would. Sorry, go ahead.
do you find like have you found a use for your spiritual abilities, like a purpose for it, like a higher purpose to use it in a certain way? A good
Uh, well,
bad
the
way.
whole no, that's a good question. The whole astral projection thing, I literally it just sounded really cool. It just
Okay.
sounded really cool. So I was like, if I can do that, that's cool. I was always into the whole I want to be able to lucid dream type of sphere, and I thought that was pretty relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and tried it, and it was successful, and it was so startling that I took a break from it. It's very intense. And then about a month later, so I stopped trying it, and then a month later, it happened on accident. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh no, I hope I didn't start something here. Like it's just going to keep happening without my consent. But
Yeah.
that didn't. It happened one more time after that, and then I haven't messed with it since then. But
Oh,
I have
okay.
a deep feeling that if I wanted to do it, it wouldn't be any trouble.
Hmm.
And it goes hand in hand with the with a lot of what the pushing down exercise has to do. That's actually funny enough. Before I even, when you get into Dr. Wilson's work, I mean, there's so much to digest. I didn't start learning about the pushing down until many months into the free program.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was willing to do the coffee enemas before the meditation, which I don't know what that says about me, but
Mm-hmm.
basically, sorry, that milk is so good. It made me lose my train of thought.
Well, we're still talking about the astral projection, basically. So you haven't done it in a while.
I haven't
Yeah.
done it in a while.
Um, so now your psychic ability, do you use that, or is it something that just comes to you?
That's right.
You control it.
It's a good question. It sounds bizarre. I don't really take it too seriously. I use it more for fun and insight more than anything. Like I'm just really curious about it. I don't use it for any purpose other than it's interesting and I learn from it. It helps me learn more about myself. And I
Mm-hmm.
guess if I learn more about myself, that's always a good thing. I mean, learn more
So it's
about myself, and then as I learn more about myself, I can help others. So
yeah. So no, so it's something that you can control yourself. So if you want to dive deeper into a certain situation, you can purposely put your in there and understand using your psychic ability, or is it something like for me, it's just like an intuitive thing that just comes to me. I
okay,
wouldn't say,
that would that's more my line. I don't have to go and have a practice and sit down and connect. It just kind of spontaneously occurs.
okay, okay, interesting. So now the big thing.
Oh, let's talk about it. Is it the water?
Yes, see,
Yes.
you are psychic.
I've been waiting to talk about this.
Yes, okay.
Okay. So
So
when
you don't drink water. Explain that.
I don't, yeah, I don't want to drink water. I don't need to now. So when I first started nutritional balancing, I was going gung ho on it. I paid attention to, and I'm assuming that most of the audience listening to this is doing nutritional balancing or has heard of it. So,
Mm-hmm.
I was going gung ho. I was just piling in 9 cups of vegetables per day, trying to drink the 2 to 3 quarts of spring water every day. And I was forcing it. Maybe I'd want some in the morning when I woke up. Maybe I was a little thirsty, and then after my first meal, I'd wait, maybe some sips here and there. But by the end of the day, I'd only gotten like a quart down, and my body wanted nothing more to do with any water. It was repulsive to my taste, like that intuitive taste. I was not thirsty at all. And I noticed that if I would push the water too hard, I would always wake up the next morning with the type of hangover type feel.
Okay.
And I associated that hangover type feel with electrolyte problems because, I mean, whether you like it or not, too much water it acts as a solvent, and it is going to drain your macro minerals. It is going to drain sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium out of the tissues or out of the extracellular part of the tissues. It's just going to do that. And, I started putting two and two together. That much water is just not good for me. If you genuinely want 3 quarts of water per day, I can't argue with you. That's great for you. But for me, it just did not work out. And then about 5 months in, I don't know, for anyone listening, I started messing around with fasting a little bit. Just very interested in that. Not only fasting, but dry fasting. So that was going against what everyone who fasted said to do. Most people are like, hey, make sure you drink a gallon of water per day while you're fasting. And when I did that, I felt so bad. Like all I could do is sit on the couch if I did that. Where I found if I fasted and didn't drink any water, I felt like $1,000,000 and I was almost on fire. Like on fire with energy. Like I used to suffer with cold hands and feet all the time. If I didn't drink any water, I felt like I was hot from head to toe, and I loved it because it was so different. I was always used to being cold. So I took that and I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to fast forever. Obviously there's people that take fasting way too far, and I disagree with that. Fasting, a day or two here, 3 days, maybe every other month, that's fantastic. But these people that try to do like a week every month or 40-day fast here and there, I think that's not good. I think that's going to get you into some trouble. But when I went back to eating the nutritional balancing way, I realized that I felt much better with just barely any water per day. And it was completely linear. However much salt I ate was how much water I was going to drink. So as soon as I realized that, I was like, okay, that's huge for me. So then when I started eating the raw meat and eggs and milk, well, not even milk at first, it was the raw meat and eggs first. I ate it and I wanted nothing to do with water. If I took one sip, it was disgusting to me. So if you think, anyone who's listening, think about raw eggs in a glass. It's so gelatinous and water filled anyways. It's almost like drinking a cup of water with a little bit of solid in there. That's what I'm trying to say here is food is hugely already mostly water anyways. Like milk is 90% water, meat can be anywhere from 60 to 70% water, eggs can be up to like the high 80% water. Fruit can be anywhere from high 80s to like almost 100% water. Vegetation is all over the place because there's a bunch of different types of vegetables, but nuts and seeds and grains on the drier side, which is why birds will eat or drink water. Birds will go and sip water because they eat such dry food like grains and seeds and things like that. Dogs, if you notice dogs, especially wolves and coyotes and more, if you know any dogs that get fed a raw food diet, like that get raw meat handed to them by their owners, they really don't drink water. It's only when they eat the kibbles, like the Alpo, that they will go and slurp water afterwards to kind of like rehydrate the food. So that's it. I can go months without drinking water. Now, if in the summer, you live in Houston, I live in Dallas, it can get stupid hot in Texas. Like you go walk to your car to get something from it and walk back inside, you're already sweating a little bit. Just on your back. I guess that you can get that hot and humid. Meat and eggs will take me so far. I might want like a sip of water every week. That's what it'll amount to. Like maybe every now and then I'll take a sip. I don't have to. I just can because, ever since I was little, I like cold beverages. So I keep a Crystal Geyser, like a big thing of spring water, in the fridge. And that's almost like a treat. It's not because I need it. It's like it's refreshing. It like replaces that cold soda, that cold juice type of feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay.
I don't need water. I'm not lying to anyone. I don't benefit off saying that.
Okay. Okay. Very, very interesting. So, where are you? What's your heritage? Where are your parents from?
My mom's got some Native American, and my dad's got some. I know a lot of it's just standard Western European, like French, maybe German.
Okay.
I should probably know that, but it's nothing fancy. Nothing fancy. Just Western European, a little bit of Native American. But
Huh.
So yeah, Native Americans ate lots of raw meat. They actually ate lots of raw meat, and they knew they would make this thing called pemmican. Oh, that reminds me. Actually, forget that. If me not drinking water freaks some people out, this one's really gonna rattle y'all.
Okay.
So not only do I eat raw meat and eggs on a regular basis, I purposely ferment meat in jars.
Okay.
So I'll let it rot in jars.
Yeah.
And it's used medicinally, so I won't go eat a massive portion of it. You take little marble-sized portions.
Okay.
It's tremendous. I have lots of historical and traditional data to back that up if you want to hear that, or you just take my word for it. It's
Native
almost
American practice.
the Native Americans, I believe, did it, but the people who really went gung ho with it is the Eskimos, some Philippine tribes. I think the Aborigines did. And then, I mean, it's just pretty apparent. You don't have to do it with meat. You can do it with dairy, too. So, like, the moldiest, oldest cheeses are the ones that cost the most money. It's the one people want the most. People want aged meat that's been aging in a meat locker for 2 months. They don't want the fresh kill, right? Those make mistakes. So, when you age it, so first off, we have to. This can take us so many places. I mean, I'm just going to end up rambling unless you stop me. So feel free to stop me at any time. But the germ theory of disease, I feel, is kind of a joke.
Yeah.
Right? Because here I am eating raw meat, eggs, milk on a daily basis. I'm saturating my body with bacteria, worms, parasites, everything. I'm fermenting my meat, and the health authorities say I should have been dead months ago.
Yeah.
Long time ago. But here I am. It seems to help me
now,
out.
when you say medicinally, what would you use it medicinally for?
Okay, so the craziest thing happened. So basically, it's like your ultimate probiotic supplement.
Okay.
So you pretty much, it's not just to let bacteria ferment on it and increase in number tremendously. It also kind of breaks down the meat. It'll become slimy and mucousy and kind of, if you do it right and you do it long enough, you'll start getting mold on it. You'll get green, white, blue, black molds on it. You'll get slime. You'll get a little bit of crust. You'll get, if you do it outside, you'll get worms. But if you do it in the fridge like I do, you don't get worms.
Okay.
So
delicious. All right.
well, okay, it doesn't taste good, but it doesn't taste bad. That's the interesting thing. It does not taste bad. It tastes like a really aged cheese.
Okay.
So it's really got that umami. It's got that umami, like savory kind of puckery feel, kind of like a really sharp cheddar cheese would have.
Yeah.
But it does not. Okay, the smell is horrendous. You have to open the jars outside to air it out and then bring it back inside.
Wow.
It'll stink up your house for a full 24 hours if you open it inside.
Now, have you ever seen any worms?
No, because I only do it inside. If you did it like the Eskimos did, they would bury it in hides 6 inches below the snow, and they actually had to bury it below the snow because it was warmer there. Because if it was above the snow, 2 things would happen. It wouldn't ferment as fast because it's so cold, and 2, animals would get it because animals love rotten meat. I'll tell you what.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Love rotten meat. Not rotten cooked meat. That can kill them. That'll make them very sick.
Oh.
That's why humans that eat, cooked food that's been aged, you can get very sick. That's why it's notorious in Chinese restaurants, Chinese places.
Mm-hmm.
They will cook their meat and then serve it to you. And then if they didn't use it all, they'll refreeze it. And then for the next day of business, they'll unthaw it and use it and unthaw it. When you do that, bacteria will grow on the cooked meat over and over and over and create toxic metabolites that when they get into our system, our body's like, no, screw that, and it throws it up. Or it'll diarrhea it out because it's food poisoning. You can go leave a piece of steak on the sidewalk for 2 months, come back and eat it, and it will not give you food poisoning.
Huh.
This is evident with the whole high meat thing. Now, I'm doing it more controlled. I don't want to go leave my meat on the ground. I'd rather do it in the fridge. I'm sure there's going to be a point where I bury it in the ground, but
yeah, man. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I say this for everyone listening because you really have to question everything dietary related, anything health related that's told to you. You know what I mean? Because if I can go and do this, what else are they telling me that's not exactly right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just got to keep got to experiment, man.
That's pretty
But
hardcore.
medicinal use of it. Let me wrap that up. The medicinal use of it, it acts as an extreme probiotic, and without doubt, every time I've tried it, so it's pretty proven, and everyone else that does this talks about it as well. If you have chronic depression, that is unseemingly, you just don't know what's going on. You don't feel like you should be depressed by any means. You go and eat, they call it high meat. So this fermented meat, they call it high meat. Why they call it that, I don't know. You can say it's because it's high bacteria count, or you can say it because it makes you high. Because it literally does make you high. If you eat high meat in 20 minutes, you will feel like you have a body high. And funny enough, have you ever heard of fecal matter transplants?
God, no.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
Fecal matter transplants?
It's where they take shit from someone else and they just say here, and they put it in.
They put it in them?
They put it in someone else. They take, so you know about the gut biome,
Yeah.
like the bacteria of gut biome. So people with autism, people with IBS, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, all those major issues, not only do they have those apparent problems, but they have massive fluctuations in bacterial colonization. Like their bacteria profiles are way off from what we assume they should be. And for whatever reason, their diet is not allowing it to normalize. So they will take the fecal matter, which most fecal matter of humans is just mostly dead bacteria, bile, and any fiber that didn't get digested. Right? So they'll take that from that healthy person, someone they consider healthy and disease-free, and they will implant the feces into the colon of the sick person.
So they put it in their rectum, basically.
Yeah, I don't think they just push it in from the rectum level. I think they actually surgically go and I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
But just about every case and it's a thing, I'm not making this up. Just about every I can't make this up. This actually happened.
Yeah, nobody can make that up. Okay.
But no, just about almost in 100% of cases, these patients with the problems get a tremendous buzzing in the body. So anyone that has messed around with meditation and energy exercises, you know, you have those days where the energy is just not flowing, and then you have those days where you're just pushing it. You feel like you're plugged into an electrical socket, right? That's what that feeling is for those people. It's like the nerves are firing, like they're getting that tingly feeling from head to toe. It's like something got turned on. And a lot of it is that bacterial colonization. So anyone listening, the field of gut research that's going on today is just tremendous. Like we're making so much headway in it. And the things we're finding out, you know, they're calling the gut the second brain, right?
Yes.
The second brain. There's more neurons in the gut than there are the brain. There's more bacterial cells in the. So if you took my shape of my body and you counted every animalistic or any mammalian or human cell, bacteria an average person outnumber it by 10. So if there's a trillion of my own human cells, there's 10 trillion bacteria in my persona, in my sphere of being, whatever you want to call it. They're pretty dang important. They're pretty darn important. If you take all the bacteria out of the digestive tract, you're not going to digest a single thing.
Right.
Not a single thing. You can't, because they actually break it down into more finite particles that our body can deal with. So when these people get the fecal matter transplants and they get that bacterial colonization up to where it needs to be, things just start working. That's all they can figure out. Things just most of our serotonin, 90% of our serotonin is made by the interchromaffin cells in the small intestine. Most 50%, that's the number being thrown around. 50% of our dopamine is made in the colon.
Oh, wow.
In the colon. So it gets made there and it can transport through bodily systems to be used in every nerve synapse we have. So it's drastically important. They're like our little workforce. That's why probiotics tend to make people feel better, right? And they fix all these. That's why people, you're depressed, take a probiotic, because it just helps with everything. It helps with infections. It helps with mental, psychological problems. It helps with digestive problems. Helps with energy. Helps with everything. because we pretty much rely on bacteria and microbial activity pretty much for everything. That's why when you take an antibiotic, you suffer everywhere. People will develop insomnia, energy problems, infection problems, blah blah blah, because it affects every system.
Wow.
Sorry, I'm rambling so hard right now, but
Well, hey, we might need to add that to the nutritional balancing fecal matter transplants. Let's get.
well, I think. I mean, okay, don't get me started. Don't get me started.
No. All right. Well, man. All right. We've gone for about an hour.
Yeah.
So let's stop it here, and I'll upload this to the. Have you ever looked at the YouTube page?
Yeah, the Malkuth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm gonna put it on. It's probably gonna take a while to upload on there. This
Yeah.
is a video.
Yeah. I apologize.
But everybody's gonna watch it. I can't wait.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, anything else you want to add before we leave?
Yeah. For anyone listening, like, it's great to have intellectual understandings about everything we're doing health-wise, and it's great, all these concepts, and it's all wonderful, but I think intuition, your own intuition, is the most important thing. I think it trumps any type of scientific evidence or studies or any type like that. Empirical evidence is king. So if you're doing something over and over and over and it's not working for you, and you just really, you're twisted about it, you want to believe that it's right for you, but you doing it all the time is not giving you the results you want, maybe try something else, right? That's how I've gotten, I used to be just this sickly, could barely get out of bed kid. I couldn't play at recess. I was supposed to have all these further problems develop and have to be on all these medications forever. And here I am, completely the opposite, because I trusted my intuition. So
Awesome. All right, man. Well, that'll do it, and
awesome.
we'll wait for all the comments. I can't wait. All
Yeah,
right.
awesome. Thanks, man.
The video now. Okay.
I don't get when people say you're deficient on that diet,